Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. I'm your host for the show, David Blain. We thank you for joining us today on Cable TV 10 in New Bern, as well as 94.1 FM WNBU over the airwaves. We hope that everybody survived Hurricane Irene. So today we've been talking in the first segment a little bit about Bill Gross at PIMCO Funds and his colossal misestimation of the U.S. Treasury market. And we continued in segment 2 talking a little bit about the payroll tax cut and how some conservative economists, myself included, are not really that excited about extending the payroll tax cut. So if you missed those, go to the website, www.dlblain.com. There we post archived copies of the show as well as information about myself and my firm. As many of you know, I run a wealth management firm in New Bern with clients all over the United States, specializing in business owners, real estate, investors, as well as our widows and single women. So today we want to finish up this segment here talking about the case against the payroll tax cut. We talked about a couple reasons why this is maybe not such a great idea. Well, just to refresh your memory, the payroll tax cut was something President Obama enacted, cutting the worker portion from 6.2 to 4.2 on a temporary basis. And our theory is that this is not such a great idea for stimulating aggregate demand or stimulating hiring. The first is it goes to people that have jobs, and so it's going to do nothing to increase or decrease the unemployment rate, and the people that got the cut don't have jobs to offer. Second, it helps a lot of people who don't need it. It's very indiscriminate. And third, we've seen with previous administrations in 2001 and 2008 that these temporary rebates, they just are not that stimulative. People view them as what they are, in fact, temporary, and they tend to save them and not spend them. Okay, so on to some new things. Even if one assumes that the cost of employment has declined and employers can somehow capture some of that cut, there's little sign that labor costs are the principal reason employers aren't hiring. In fact, I've talked about this before, that we will not see wholesale inflation in our economy. People complain about the price of gas, the price of food, but wholesale inflation, which is the general rise in price across an economy, we're just not seeing labor wages increasing. And so from that side of things, employers, it's definitely an employer-friendly job market. There are a ton of people looking for work, and wages are not increasing. And so we don't think that is really what's preventing employers from hiring. We think it's a lot of uncertainty in the federal government economic policies, as well as uncertain about the debt, uncertain about things like that. But it's certainly not. There are a ton of well-qualified people, and labor rates are still remaining extremely low. And so we don't see how this payroll tax cut helps with either one of those situations. The other topic that I want to talk about here is why we disagree with this is that the payroll tax cut, there is an argument that it's not really a tax at all. If you look at, it's actually part of a worker's compensation. The employer kicks in some money, the employee kicks in some money, and this is the reason that Social Security and Medicare have so many problems is, on average, the majority of people, well, I shouldn't say on average, the majority of people, a significant majority of people receive more benefit from Social Security and Medicare than they actually pay in. And so when you look at the workers themselves, especially at the middle class and lower end of the earning spectrum, they receive much more benefit, and so it's almost like a forced savings plan, and so they don't necessarily view it as a tax at all. There's research, although it's very counterintuitive, there's other research from our friends at the World Bank, a very liberal, left-leaning organization, that argue that Social Security is a forced savings program and doesn't reduce the labor supply at all. And so people don't view it that way. The people that receive Social Security, now maybe not the younger workers, but certainly people that have been in the workforce for a while and have their parents seen their parents receive Social Security, they just don't see this as necessarily a complete negative. So that's several reasons why we don't think that the payroll tax should be extended. We view that this $110 billion in payroll taxes that will not be collected would be better spent in other areas. The stimulus that they just threw money at different things, in theory, capital works projects and things like that are the way to go. The problem is it cannot be done at the federal level. There's just too much waste and graft and things like that. And we think that the economics of this are not what's driving the Social Security debate, that the one side of the table is using it as a political ploy to essentially try to buy votes from people, and the Republican opposition to it is mostly, although you would think that most of them thought through the economics, the reality is most of them it's just a knee-jerk reaction to anything that the other side opposes. And so there are some conservatives and economically conservative people that understand the economics of this are just bad, but the majority of this is just a political theater, as we saw with the debt debate. We advocate for something that is long-term, permanent in nature, permanently change the tax structure so that businesses and individuals have certainty in their tax planning so that they can plan for the future. These 1 year, anything temporary or 1 year is just not what is going to fix the economy in our opinion. You've got to have fundamental structural changes that encourage employers to spend some of the billions of dollars they have on hiring new people and increasing the aggregate demand out there. And that's only done through fundamental shifting of the way Social Security and Medicare are structured, the way the payments are paid in, the way people pay taxes in America. We think that those things would be much better than another extension of another temporary program. There's also a great fear that this becomes permanent and really does end Social Security. So that's about all the time we have for today's show. We hope you've enjoyed it and that you'll come back again next week and join us on the same stations. So for All Things Money, I'm your host, David Blain.
The proceeding was a paid program. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of WNBU and Inner Banks Media.